Here's how to launch. Find the power keys, then place them in the right spots. You found a power key. Go slot it. Hey, great! You found another power key. Use it quick. Holy hell.
Hey, knock it off!
Great! You know what to do with that key. You know what to do with that key. I owe you one. I owe you one. Flying Nimbus! That's a new power key. Place it now. Great. You know what to do with that key. don't know what danger awaits. Think before rushing in. We don't know what danger awaits. Think before rushing in.
Please, save me! Please, save me! You're my savior.
Access the startup system from the central area. Just a little more to go, then you're done.
You're a big help.
Stay calm. Stay calm.
The startup system's under attack. It's dangerous, so tread carefully if you want to get closer. You funnel 7 Dragon Balls. Summon Shinron at the altar.
Oh, man.
The startup system is under attack. Stop it if you can. Retreat if you need to. Got it?
You're done!
Now, stage it shall be done. I will grant your wish.
Bastard!
I'll send some supplies to help. Make good use of them.
I'll end this.
I've had enough of this. I'm activating Cellmax.
Enough of this foolishness!
Doctor!
Activating Cellmax.
Enough of this!
I owe you one.
All right. I'll take care of them, but I need you to buy me some time. I sent over a super transfer. Be careful with it. Should make it easier to deal with them.
Holy hell.
The startup system's destroyed. The escape time machine's almost prepped. You need to head for the beacon that's indicated by a blue light. Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies. An ally needs your help. We don't know what danger awaits.
Stay calm.
Think before
Stay calm.
rushing in.
Here comes the pain! You're gone! Ah!
watch out for enemies. The escape time machine is back. Whenever you have a beacon, you can call it again.
Well, that was a close match. That was a close match.
Strength. How? How can you tell? Granola asks. Oh, thank you for confirming, Vegeta responds. You're clearly not used to your power. You are majorly lacking in the battle experience to back it up. To where the second Vegeta from there had gone in speed blitzing towards Granola as Granola had gone as far as to throw a punch, we only now see how it was Vegeta who had gone as far as to grab onto Granola's fist, with Vegeta having to ask, what have you been up to since gaining this power? Have you put it to use with any training? With Granola asking, training? No need! With Granola then quickly responding by kicking Vegeta square in the stomach by then telling him, witness the gap in our power and admit defeat, Saiyan! But even then, despite being in tremendous amounts of pain, Vegeta was not backing down by responding, need I repeat myself? You may be stronger, but there's no guarantee that I'll lose to you. As once again, with Vegeta being shown latching onto Granola's leg and elbowing him directly in the shin, Granola had quickly prompted in telling Vegeta to get off as Vegeta had made his way back down onto the ground. With the two being shown having to pause yet again, it was only from there where Granola had gone to tell Vegeta, this power I've gained makes me the strongest. It's a given that I'll win here today. That's the great thing about a battle, Vegeta responds. The outcome is never quite set in stone. It's exactly what I love about fighting. Shut your mouth, barbarian! How many lives were sacrificed to your love of carnage? In which, out of pure anger, the moment Granola had gone as far as to strike yet again, Vegeta was trying to defend himself the whole time as Vegeta had gone as far as to tell Granola, here's another tidbit. Strongest, second strongest, rankings are well and good, but they only reflect a moment in time. Once that moment has been passed by, it's nothing but history. Take me, for instance. I'm already stronger than I was a few minutes ago. And I've grown more and more powerful throughout this little dance of ours. And Granola is pissed as he from there went on to shout, good enough reason for me to finish you off now.
Alright guys, from another match.
Granola had
Just started
attempted
2
in
minutes.
impaling Vegeta, with Vegeta trying to do his best to stop him, despite the fact of having to merely connect the attack just by an inch, Granola was still actually even then able to damage Vegeta far enough that it had ultimately now led to Vegeta reverting back down to his base form and spewing out blood all over Granola's arm. As with Vegeta's body now being shown shaking with Granola laughing, it was only from there where Granola had gone as far as to spot something very unusual about Vegeta, because rather than backing down or admitting defeat, Vegeta instead was shown laughing as he from there went on to respond, what fun. Oh, this feeling. It's been ages. There's no planets to protect, no people to save. Just me immersed in battle. My happy place, Vegeta says. Just the thing to get a battle-crazed Saiyan's blood pumping. As this had now gone as far as to free Granola out, with Granola being shown stepping on back, Granola from there had no clue as to what Vegeta was talking about, let alone as to what he was about to do, because it was only within that given moment where Vegeta had gone in powering up with such tremendous amounts of force behind it that it ultimately had gone as far as to send Granola flying back, with even Goku having to notice this all the way from a distance, with Goku having to respond, Vegeta's ki just changed. It feels like God Ki to me, but not just any old God Ki. As with Granola now having to witness the metamorphosis of Vegeta and finally having to see his true power now brought onto the surface, rather than just waiting around and seeing what was about to happen, Granola from there still managed to fire mound and
Would you care to take part in a little warm-up? Would you care to take part in a little warm-up? Would you care to take part in a little warm-up?
Can you hear me?
Flying Nimbus!
Trunks! I've set a super time machine, as well as a crate of supplies. Here's how to launch. Find the power keys, then place them in the right spots.
Thank you. Thank you.
You found a power key. Go slot it.
Flying Nimbus!
Great! You know what to do with that key. Hey, great! You found another power key. Use it quick.
Thank you so much.
That's a new power key. Place it now.
Welcome.
Hey, great! You found another power key. Use it quick.
Flying Nimbus!
Welcome. Whoa.
Flying Nimbus!
startup system for the super time machine is ready. The startup system for the super time machine is ready. The startup system for the super time machine is ready.
Stay calm. Stay calm.
Gosh, my teammates suck, bro. Like, why are you transforming now? Holy fuck. My teammates suck, bro. Like, why are you transforming now? Holy fuck. Teammates suck, bro. Like, why are you transforming now? Holy fuck. Suck, bro. Why are you transforming now? This guy could have destroyed a time machine already. This guy could have destroyed a time machine. This is a waste match. This is a waste match. I'm blocking every single one of these guys. I'm blocking every single one of these guys. I'm blocking every single one of these guys. If you play like a pussy and you hide most of the game, you win the match. If you play like a pussy, and the Raider's dumb for not destroying the time machine because he had a chance to destroy it. No one wanted to fight. And then he went looking for everyone, and then they end up beating him. Then he went looking for everyone, and then they end up beating him.
multiple blasts at Vegeta's aura, but once again to no avail because Granola's blasts were then shown completely having to dissipate, with Granola now left wondering as to what was going on, with Granola responding, "What now?" As lo and behold, through the fire, we finally then get to see how Vegeta was now slowly but surely beginning to emerge. With Granola now being taken back by this, that was when he went on to ask, "What's happened to you?" As it was only then for the first time ever where we then finally got to witness Hakaishin powered, or better known as Ultra Ego Vegeta, now being shown finally debuting against Granola, as Vegeta from there had gone as far as to calm down by responding, "A god of destruction taught me that power derived solely from instinct is unbounded." As it was only from that point, with Vegeta then being shown smiling, where Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 74 then comes to a close. Now, this was without question a much better depicted battle than the battle we've seen go down with Granola and Goku, only because Vegeta is now demonstrating as to what he can do by also being shown hanging in there with the original Granola, whereas essentially enough, with Goku being shown dropping his guard, he was actually put down by the original relatively easily, and to only see by the end Vegeta achieve a Hakaishin-like transformation courtesy of his training with Beerus was without question one of the most hyped and talked about moments within the Dragon Ball fandom, as we only from that point now enter Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 75, with Granola now beginning to put Vegeta's newly found powers into question by asking, "Your power is unbounded? What does that even mean?" But before Vegeta could even answer, Vegeta instead now had decided to power up in such an intense way that the sheer aura that Vegeta was now beginning to emanate was now beginning to blind Granola, until the second Granola had gone as far as to extend his arms in making sure that he was able to see. He was only then, surprisingly enough, to his own shock, then met by the sight of Vegeta, who was now standing in front of him, in which the very second Vegeta from there had gone as far as to grab onto Granola's scarf. With an eerily enough demented look on his face, it was only then where Vegeta had gone as far as to tell him, "Your head's gotten too big. It's time to take you down a peg. Get ready for a dose of my tough love." And Vegeta had meant every bit of that, because not only did Vegeta from there go as far as to yank Granola forward and headbutting him, but it was only right after doing that where Vegeta had gone as far as to now throw Granola on the floor, in which the only other way Granola was able to get out of this was to roll and leap on up out of the way, but to his own shock, once again, Vegeta was actually now fast enough in meeting Granola in the sky, as he was only from there shown having to double axe handle Granola back down onto the ground, in which once again, as Granola had attempted in trying to get leverage by landing on his feet and creating distance, Vegeta had only from that point on had gone as far as to now appear in front of him again, and once again now being shown kicking Granola up in the sky, with Granola being shown visibly frustrated, as he had only from there taken the liberty in aiming his arm down onto the ground and sniping Vegeta. To Granola's sudden surprise, he from there had noticed that Vegeta was no longer within the Cerulean Forest, but now instead had once again now appeared from behind him, as Vegeta once again had taken the liberty in kneeing Granola back down on the ground. There essentially had seemed as though there was nothing that Granola could do during this point in time to gain leverage over Vegeta, to where even despite having to be knocked back within the Cerulean Forest, Granola had from there immediately still tried to attack anyway, with Vegeta not even caring on whether or not Granola was going to make contact or not. We only from that point get to see how finally Granola was in fact actually able to successfully land the blow. However, it's not as though anything even mattered to begin with, because Vegeta had welcomed this, as Vegeta went on to respond, "The thing is, the hotter my battle soul burns, the stronger I grow." In which only then, as Vegeta was then shown grabbing onto Granola's skull, and from there being shown having to fall back down himself and throwing Granola back within the Cerulean City, it was only as Granola's body was shown crashing through the landscape and inevitably having to hit one of the buildings, where Vegeta had once again popped up out of nowhere and kicking Granola so hard in the stomach that it almost appeared as though this entire fight was about to be over, courtesy of Ultra Ego Vegeta putting Granola down for good. But of course, Granola had proven to be durable enough in surviving all of this, as Granola from there went on to comment, "It's like he's an entirely different person. He gets stronger by taking damage? And what's a god of destruction? There are these beings called gods of destruction," Vegeta went on to chime in. "Our universe has one, and he's the one who taught me about this power," with Granola falling back and asking, "So this god granted you this power?" "Did I say that?" Vegeta asks. "No, this power is my own. Our battle has awakened it for the first time. mine, this innate power within me. Oh, you mean I drew out this strength of yours, Granola asks? Yes, precisely. I'm grateful, really. But Granola seemed as though he was really getting sick and tired of dealing with Vegeta's antics as Granola went on to respond, Enough nonsense! You stronger than me? That's impossible! To where the moment we then see how Granola had now gone as far as to fire a blast directly at Vegeta, rather than having to avoid the blast or even combat it, Vegeta instead stood perfectly still and clenching down on his fists, as surprisingly enough Vegeta instead had now taken the blast head on, with Granola not believing as to what he was seeing. It was only through the smoke with Vegeta laughing, where Vegeta then went on to comment, good, nothing revs me up more. Which this itself was from their challenge, as Granola was then shown firing multiple energy blasts at Vegeta's body. The fight itself had now appeared to be so barbaric and so brutal in its nature that you can literally see it upon both Granola and Vegeta's faces, as it was only from out of nowhere through the smoke where Vegeta was then shown having to dash on out in his attempts of attacking Granola, but Granola had quickly acted in defending himself by creating a barrier around him, in which upon initial contact it seemingly looked as though Vegeta was unable to break it, which fortunately for Granola had now gone as far as to save him with Vegeta falling back. That was when Granola went on to ask, why don't you dodge? So this isn't like your ally's power that makes your body avoid danger? Oh, you speak of Kakarot's Ultra Instinct? Don't you dare compare his pathetic technique to my own, he says. Kakarot's body may have a mind of its own, but I am all ego. In fact, go ahead and call this Ultra Ego. Ego, you say, Granola asks, as Vegeta had once again proceeded to dash directly towards him. Vegeta wasted little time in from there being shown drop-kicking Granola's barrier and finally being able to not only break past it, but he was also from there being shown strong enough in kicking Granola so hard in the face that once again Granola's body was sent flying all throughout the ruined Cerulean City. And interestingly enough, in the distance with Monaito having to oversee this, that was when Monaito went on to comment, I thought so, Granola's caught in some kind of fight, but against who? Could it be Frieza? As back with Granola, as Vegeta was then shown approaching him, that was when Granola went on to shout, you aren't even Frieza! There's no way I'll lose to some third-rate Saiyan grunt! I have no idea what tales you've heard, Vegeta says, but our home planet Vegeta wasn't wiped out by some enormous meteor strike, with Granola asking, what? It was all Frieza's doing, Vegeta says. He destroyed planet Vegeta himself. The Saiyan tribe is yet another pushed to the brink of extinction by Frieza. Is that true, Granola asks? Granola, that contradicts what you were told, Oatmeal responds. It doesn't matter. Even if you are telling the truth, it's no reason to call off my revenge, Granola shouts. Against all of you Saiyans, as the minute Granola was then shown striking Vegeta in the forehead, it was only from there as he was shown bleeding where Vegeta had gone as far as to smile in responding, believe what you want, but I speak the truth, and don't think for a second that I want your pity. To where right then and there, as Vegeta was shown kicking Granola up in the sky, Granola had once again used his scarf in wrapping it around one of the buildings in swinging himself around and maintaining his balance, with Granola really not having an idea as to what he was going to do next. It was only from there where Oatmeal went on to tell him, it appears that the Saiyans were the victims as well. So what, Granola says? That doesn't change the fact that the Saiyans killed my people. And yet does it not seem as though these two are aware of that, Oatmeal says? Enough, Oatmeal! As it did in fact seem as though Granola had finally had enough of Oatmeal, so upon having to remove the strap from his head and throwing it out into the forest, it was only from there where Granola went on to say to himself, now that I'm the strongest, I don't need your support anymore. In which as Granola had then once again made his way towards Vegeta, that was when Vegeta went on to respond, oh, is that red eye the mark of your people? You claimed I'm not used to my power, Granola says. I did, Vegeta responds. You haven't seen enough battle in your time, with Granola telling him, then I'll have to make up for that lack of experience now against you. What, Vegeta says? You're not the only one who grows stronger the more he fights. And Granola was not lying, as he was only from there shown levitating one of the ruined buildings behind him. He then quickly tried to crush Vegeta by throwing it directly at him, but Vegeta at that point was in fact strong enough in ripping the building apart by asking, what's this? So you're willing to destroy this old city now? But instead of responding to Vegeta's question, question, Granola instead had then began to throw multiple old buildings at Vegeta in such a way that not only was Granola shown destroying them right in front of Vegeta, but Vegeta from that point was now beginning to take significant amounts of damage as Vegeta went on to ask, "Oh, you'll go to any lengths then. Fine by me. Bring it on," he says. As the second he was then shown ripping off his Saiyan armor and continuing the fight with Granola, within the Cerulean Forest, Oatmeal was shown really disappointed and asking, "Really, Granola?" But then, we only from that point actually then get to see how Oatmeal was in fact actually able to operate and control Granola's ship, because upon having to redirect the ship and making its way back towards Vegeta and Granola, we only from there see how in fact the two were now engaged in a very intense battle. As Vegeta had now gone as far as to look down on his hand and seeing his own blood, Vegeta from that point went on to comment, "Nah, let's keep this up. I can grow even stronger." But then, from beneath the forest, Vegeta, instead of from there being shown taking the blast head on, actually managed to barely avoid it, with Granola now having to add even more insult to injury. It was only from there where Granola went on to comment, "So, you can dodge after all, or are you hitting your limit at last?" With Vegeta responding, "Oh, it's unwise to doubt a Saiyan's combat prowess. We live for battle." As in the meantime, with Goku shown splashing water in his face and trying to wake back up, it was only upon having to look on up where Goku from there went on to ask, "Oh, is he for real? Oh, where's that oomph Vegeta had earlier? Oh, and Granola's moves are sharper than ever. Is he getting the hang of fighting? Yikes, I can't be taking it easy on the sidelines forever," he says. "Come on, body, you gotta heal for me." As with Goku shown trying to do the best that he could in healing himself when then going back to Vegeta and Granola, Vegeta from that point was shown taking so many of Granola's blasts that eventually enough he had responded with one of his own, in which even after the fact as this went down, it was only from there where Vegeta went on to utter, "Tenacious worm, vision blurring, I've taken too much damage," in which surprisingly enough from behind the smoke, Granola was then shown finally having to emerge, but only this time Granola had now seemingly looked as though he was preparing for a big attack and firing that at Vegeta. With Vegeta not finding this entertaining in the slightest, that was when Vegeta went on to respond, "Curse him, still standing and ready to fight? I'll have to end this now." To where within that moment, as Vegeta was shown powering up with such tremendous amounts of rage behind it, we only from there then see how he managed to form a massive Hakai ball up in the air. With Granola not budging in the slightest, Vegeta from there went on to tell him, "This will destroy anything it touches. Want to protect your precious planet? Then you'd better stop this yourself." But once again, Granola had no words for Vegeta as Vegeta went on to continue, "Oh, you're a brave one. Then this will be your doom." As the minute Vegeta was then shown firing the ball down at Granola, it was only from there where Granola was shown having to patiently wait for it until, to the surprise of Vegeta, we then see how Granola had now managed to activate his left Cerulean Eye, with Vegeta left baffled in the fact that Granola was actually able to do this. So, as a means of responding to Vegeta's massive attack, Granola from there was shown firing one of his own, as upon the moment of contact, we only from there see how a gigantic explosion had gone as far as to rock the entire planet in such a way that everyone now was beginning to feel it. Oil, Goku, Monaito, and even Oatmeal, who was piloting the ship, in which as the smoke and dust finally began to settle on down, in seeing as to how Vegeta was now on the ground, it was only from there where Vegeta had gone as far as to sit back up by responding, "Damn it, how did he?" But through the smoke on the other side, Granola was only from there shown emerging as Granola went on to tell him, "I have to thank you, Saiyan. You're responsible for drawing this power out of mine." As meanwhile back with the heaters, it only appeared as though Maki was now beginning to panic as Maki went on to shout, "Hey, Oil! You want to explain that crazy explosion just now? I mean, are you okay? What the heck was that?" I'm in one piece," Oil says. "That was just Granola fighting back." Oh, Elec responds, "I'm impressed. I was sure Granola would lose this fight soon, but I guess the battle's still undecided." Yet Maki responds, "Those three can keep wearing each other down," she says. Oh, just as we planned then. They'll wipe each other out, with Gas then being shown approaching with the Dragon Radar and having to tell Elec, "All's good with this device too, Elec. We're about to reach the first location." "Good," Elec says. "I can't wait to lay my eyes on those so-called Dragon Balls that grant any wish." To where with the heaters now making their way and finding the Cerulean Dragon Balls, it was only right then and there here where Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 75 then comes to a close. Now, this was probably without question one of the most anticipated manga chapters within the story of Granola, only because this was in fact going to be the first time for all of us in witnessing what Ultra Ego Vegeta was capable of in going up against Granola, only for everyone to then by the end be surprised in seeing the fact that Granola was also able to grow stronger himself in not only being shown going the distance in matching Vegeta's attack, in first going as far as to seemingly look as though they were stalemating until Granola was shown having the upper hand. There was no doubt that this was one of the most engaging and entertaining manga chapters within the Granola arc until we from that point enter Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 76, with massive wind gusts having to overtake the landscape as a massive explosion is then seen in the distance. As we then venture on over and taking a look at what is happening, we then oversee how Ultra Ego Vegeta is trying to do his best in both dodging and avoiding Granola's attacks and doing what he can to survive. However, due to the fact that Granola seems to be unrelenting and unforgiving in his pursuit in wanting to take Vegeta down, that essentially doesn't appear to be the case, because despite whatever it is that Vegeta is trying to do, eventually enough he was caught off guard by what Granola had done, because as soon as Vegeta then went on to look up, he was then met by a hailstorm of blasts that have rained down upon him, and Vegeta is trying to do his best in shielding himself, in protecting himself, in doing what he can to stabilize and gain any sort of momentum in surviving long enough in this battle. But even then, as Vegeta's body is shown having to hit the ground, through the smoke on the other side, Granola is menacingly enough shown having to walk towards Vegeta ever so sinisterly, with, mind you, not only having to use one now, but both of his hands being extended in that of a gun. It's fairly evident that Granola is not only enjoying himself in punishing Vegeta, but as he's doing so, he then went on to tell Vegeta, "What's wrong? My attacks aren't invigorating you anymore?" As Vegeta went on to stand back up by responding, "Curse you!" But even then, during that moment, once again, Granola was not shown having to let up, because Granola had then went back on the attack and shooting Vegeta over and over and over again, to the point where Vegeta's body is literally shown not only having to sustain massive levels of damage, but at the same time, these ki beams or ki blasts are hitting Vegeta with enough force that it's causing his body to go flying backwards, and as it did, Vegeta's body is just tumbling backwards. He's rolling until Granola had noticed this and using his speed feats to teleport behind Vegeta fast enough in stopping Vegeta in his place, and as he did, Granola had stopped Vegeta in such a way that I absolutely love the bottom left-hand panel, where Granola is just shown having to hold up Vegeta's head forward with his foot, and as he did, Vegeta has now reverted right back down to his base form, as Granola went on to ask, "No more super ego or whatever you call it? The universe is proving me right, since fate has clearly decided that you Saiyans are doomed to die." But then, rather than accepting death, Vegeta went on to clutch on to Granola's leg, in which was holding his head forward, as Vegeta went on to tell him, "You speak too soon." Granola says, "Get off of me! I am the master of my own fate," says Vegeta, and with Granola shown stepping back, he then went on to respond, "Learn to realize when you've lost," and Granola is not letting up, because as right before Granola ended up following through in wanting to end Vegeta right then and there, the only thing Vegeta could do during that moment was simply close his eyes and hope for the best, because even Vegeta had known that Granola was simply too overwhelming for even Vegeta to handle, until out of nowhere, unbeknownst to both Granola and Vegeta, Super Saiyan Blue Goku had then made his re-entry in the fight by not only saving Vegeta moments before Granola had punched his head off, but at the same time, Goku had then carried on and rocking Granola so hard in the face that out of the many scenarios and circumstances that could have presented itself in this battle, Granola was not expecting for Goku, out of all people, to re-enter this battle, as even Vegeta himself was seemingly baffled by this, which had gone on to personally remind me of the good old days of Dragon Ball Z when Metal Cooler had Goku right within his vice grip, and for Vegeta to come out of nowhere and kicking Metal Cooler off of Goku are the kind of vibes that I got from this particular moment in time, and with Granola's body sent flying back, that's when Vegeta went on to utter Kakarot. "You again?" asks Granola. "You're still on your feet? Hanging in there?" Vegeta asks Goku. "I'll take over from here," but Vegeta was not going to let that happen, because in a similar fashion in which Android 18 had done to Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta went on to do the exact same kick that 18 had done to him, and kick Goku with such force and such fury that Goku's body was sent hurtling towards a water tank, as Goku even went on to ask, "Yeesh, what gives, Vegeta?" "Take over," Vegeta asks. "Not if I have a say," Vegeta says, as he proceeded to hold Goku up by the shirt, He was very adamant in staying in this fight, as he then went on to punch Goku in the face and sending Goku flying backwards. That's when Vegeta went on to tell him, "There's no one I'd rather beat to hell and back than you, Kakarot." "Come on, man," says Goku. "You sure picked the moment for this old attitude," as Vegeta responds, "You seem confused. But know that I've only ever agreed to fight side by side when we had something to protect." "Protect?" Goku says, "Huh? How about preserving our own life? Are you trying to get yourself killed?" As Vegeta responds, "Better that than teaming up with you." But this in fact would nearly cost Vegeta his life, because as Vegeta had spent more time having to talk to Goku, Vegeta was completely caught off guard in not being aware that Granola was after him, because with Granola then being shown having to rapidly approach Vegeta, with the only other person having to see this being Goku, by the time Vegeta had slowly made his way in understanding as to what was going on, by then it would have already been too late, because Granola was in fact looking to kill, in nearly having to come inches away from impaling Vegeta through the abdominal section. So instead, with Goku being the only one between the two and having to see this, Goku did not waste a single second by then having to use all of the force that he physically could in pushing Vegeta away from Death's clutches, because Goku knew that Granola was in fact going to go for the kill. So Goku's immediate response was to help his friend, and indeed he did, because with all of the force that Goku had used in pushing Vegeta away, Granola went as far as to nearly graze Vegeta, as of course we get to see a small laceration near Vegeta's ribs. But even then, Goku had gone on to use so much force in which Vegeta's body is sent hurtling out into the distance, and as it did, Granola was caught off guard, and Vegeta's body had then been shown having to crash within the building, and that ultimately resulted in Vegeta momentarily having to be knocked out from this fight. And yes, Goku needed to do what he did, which ultimately resulted in Vegeta momentarily getting knocked out, with Granola left having to process as to what had just happened, because the last person that he was expecting to save Vegeta was in fact Goku. As Goku was then shown huffing and puffing, Granola went on to ask, "Lucky timing? No. How did you react in time?" As Goku responds, "I've got a read on your whole targeting our vitals thing. It's not gonna work on me anymore." As Granola went on to laugh by asking, "A read, you say? Thanks for the laugh, but I'm calling your bluff." As it was only then during that moment Granola had carried on and speed blitzing right behind Goku. However, Goku is in fact very aware and very conscious that Granola had gotten behind him, because prior to all of this, Goku had already garnered the knowledge from fighting Granola's clone in knowing the fact that the original was in fact going to be a lot faster. But even then, Goku was still able to heighten his awareness in understanding as to where Granola had gone, even to the point where as Goku had noticed that Granola was right behind him, Granola had then proceeded in chopping Goku directly in the back of the neck with so much force that one can only assume that this would in fact be the end of Goku, because from there, as Granola was shown smirking and being proud of the fact that he was able to do this to Goku, the end result had led us to Goku once again powering right back down to his base form and falling down within the puddle of water in front of him, face down, with Granola standing over him, seemingly happy that he had taken out Goku. As Granola then went on to comment, "You really should have stayed down the first time I put you there. Wait your turn," Granola says. "I'll extract Frieza's location from you in a moment." And as Granola is then shown walking away, out of nowhere he is then hit from behind by a massive energy attack, which sent Granola flying backwards, in which he couldn't even believe it, as Granola went on to ask, "What? How?" As once again he is met by Goku, as Goku went on to hold on to the back of his neck by telling Granola, "That same move was never gonna work on me forever." And Granola is pissed, as is Goku, because as soon as Granola ended up charging back in, which interestingly enough, once again Granola had carried on in targeting Goku's vital points, and as he did, he then carried on in striking Goku directly in the stomach. However, this time, Goku had used the principle and the power of Ultra Instinct within him in hardening specific parts of the body and preventing Granola in having to do some real serious damage, because from there, even Granola himself could not believe this, because he was left speechless. And this goes as far as to show the insurmountable feats that Goku, in Super Saiyan Blue mind you, is going as far as to demonstrate, because as he proceeded to slowly remove Granola's hand from his stomach, Goku then carried on in unleashing a counterattack of his own by punching Granola square in the stomach, that had then caused Granola's body in flying out into the distance, in which as it did, Granola quickly spun in maintaining his balance and and flying directly up in the sky, and Granola was pissed because he was not expecting for not only to be caught off guard by Goku and having to fake the idea of him being hurt or at least staying down for this battle, but at the same time, he knew that Goku was not going to be as easy of a challenge as Granola had perceived him to be, as Granola then went on to comment, shifting your vitals out of harm's way? Yep, there's the smallest pause between you looking onto your vitals and the attack that follows. I can't dodge the attack completely, but at least I can shift enough in making sure that you don't hit where it really hurts. You don't say, Granola says. You've actually thought this through, and I suppose your evasion technique makes that possible in reference to Ultra Instinct. Still, your strategy is pure defense. Without attacks of your own, you'll never manage to surpass me. As Goku responds, you're not wrong, that could be a problem. In which, as we then make our way back to Vegeta, who is now shown being awake, Vegeta had put this into question in wondering as to what the heck had just happened, and as soon as Vegeta then went on to step outside in flinging the door towards the building, we get to observe in the sky in seeing Super Saiyan Blue Goku literally go toe-to-toe and swap hands with Granola, in which one has to put into question in asking how much of a Zenkai boost Goku must have received in being able to do now in Super Saiyan Blue what he was not able to do in Mastered Ultra Instinct before, and that's not only be cognitively aware as to where Granola was going to be and what Granola was about to do, but at the same time, if you guys remember, Granola's clone had gone on to give Super Saiyan Blue Goku such a difficult time that he needed the power of Mastered Ultra Instinct in order to put him down, but here, mind you, against the original, all we get to see is Super Saiyan Blue Goku and not Ultra Instinct, in which I would have preferred this battle to be involving Granola and Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku, but even then, as Vegeta is overseeing this, he is pissed, as Vegeta went on to comment, Kakarot. And with Goku shown having to rock Granola with a vicious left hook, Granola's response is simply to laugh in Goku's face, as essentially this attack itself didn't really do much to harm Granola, or at least kind of halt him in furthering this fight with the Saiyans, so instead, Granola countered with his own attack by having to Spartan kick Goku so hard in the chest that Goku's body itself was violently shown having to hit the ground below, and as it did, with the smoke beginning to now slowly settle as Vegeta is overseeing this, Goku is once again right back down into his base form. He's huffing, he's puffing, he's tired. You can only imagine how much this is literally taking out of all three of these individuals as this fight is progressing, which by no means is this an easy fight for any of these individuals, in which one might assume that this would be a cakewalk for one party when in fact it's not. And as Goku is trying to stand back up, he then went on to respond, darn, my body won't last much longer, while he's been taking us both on all on his own. Kakarot, says Vegeta, I'm tagging in. Really? Why are you so obsessed with doing this alone? Hard to say, Vegeta responds. Think of it as stubborn Saiyan pride if you'd want. And you can really beat him, asks Goku, with Granola shown huffing and puffing. It is very evident that even Granola himself is very tired by this battle, with Vegeta then responding he only just learned to unleash this side of his own power, so he won't last long either. He'll most likely hit his limit soon. That'll be my opening for victory. Please, allow me to do this alone. With Goku responding, fine. Just try not to die, Vegeta. And with a moment of tension being shown as Vegeta is then shown walking away, Vegeta then took flight in not wasting a single second, as Granola went on to ask, you again? Still fighting alone? Your minds work in mysterious ways, I must say, as Vegeta responds, and yours isn't exactly playing with a full deck. That drive for revenge has rotten away whatever's in your head. Come again, Granola asks? You think you survived all this time just to take revenge on us? There's nothing more to your life? As Granola remains quiet, that's when Vegeta continues, very well. Who am I to deny this grand mission of yours? No regrets then. Hit me with everything you can muster. As it was right then and there where Vegeta went on to transform back into Ultra Ego in such a way that even Granola and Goku are both shocked, as Granola went on to shout, but you already hit your limits. As I explained, this power is unbounded, Vegeta says. It has no limits. As it was only then, right then and there, during
Alright, guys,
that
final
moment
match
where
just started in 2
Vegeta was
minutes.
looking to erase Granola for good, because that was
guys,
when
final
Vegeta
match
went
just
on to
started in 2
shout destruction in using the nullification variation of Hakai. Now, before anyone else asks, yes, if you take a look at Vegeta's positioning in the way his palm is clinched and the way he goes on to actually use this attack, as of course you guys can see here on your screen, if you pay very close attention, this variation of Hakai, which is often debated as being the true form of Hakai, is the nullification variation where it not only goes on to completely dematerialize anything it comes in contact with, whether that be rocks, objects, or even living creatures itself. Goku had gone on to demonstrate this against Merge Zamasu, and even Beerus went on to demonstrate this against Future Zamasu, which even during the events of the Moro arc, Goku is slightly shown having to use that exact same nullification technique on the rocks that were pinning down Moro during their battle as Goku had unleashed Mastered Ultra Instinct. So there is no question that Vegeta was using this exact same technique in wanting to end this entire battle for good, which I think is a good thing, because finally for once you're not going to let the character get jobbed out, or at least be perceived as having this power and not even use it to begin with. But then during that moment, as Granola had seen what Vegeta had just done, in an act of desperation he had to counter, in which surprisingly enough he does, which in my own personal subjective opinion I'm calling plot armor, because logically speaking, if it were not for plot convenience in Granola having to somehow counter, this would have been the definitive.
How much longer do you intend to keep that up?
This would have been the definitive.
How much longer do you intend to keep that up? Can you hear me? It's Trunks. I've set a super time machine, as well as a crate of supplies. Here's how to launch. Find the power keys, then place them in the right spots. Flying Nimbus! You found a power key. Go slot it.
Please save me! You have my thanks. You have my thanks.
That's a new power key. Place it now. That's a new power key. Place it now. Hey, great! You found another power key. Use it quick. Hey, great! You found another power key. Use it.
What is this place? Is anyone out there?
Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies.
Grateful.
Great. You know what to do with that key. Watch out for enemies.
Flying Nimbus!
Welcome. Welcome. Whoa.
This is bad. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help them.
Dragon Fist! Dragon Fist!
Holy hell. Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies. The startup system for the Super Time Machine is ready. Head there now.
Get up!
Thanks.
I've had enough of this.
Make good use of them.
You can call me Super Elite. Solar Flare.
Take on!
What have you done?
You've got all 7 dragon eyes. Summon Shinra at the end.
Well then, let's begin, shall we?
The startup system's under attack. It's dangerous, so tread carefully if you want to get closer.
Consider it done.
need your help. We don't know what danger awaits. Think before rushing in. This is bad. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help.
Anyhow,
What is this? What is this?
End of Granola courtesy of Vegeta having to erase him from existence. Which of course, when putting 2 and 2 together, it would have gone on to please the fan base. Vegeta would have gone on not only to get a major victory over one of the main antagonists of a major arc going on within the main canonical story of Dragon Ball Super, but at the same time, it would have given Vegeta so much more credibility to see him not only beat an opponent of this magnitude, but go as far as to erase them from existence. But even then, Granola had a trick up his sleeve, because as Granola saw this coming, he quickly acted on instinct in doing what he could to negate the effectiveness of this variation of Hakai, in which, in my own personal opinion, since Granola subconsciously knows how to kind of use Hakai based on the previous manga chapters that we've seen, I'm only going to be under the impression that in order to stop this, Granola had to Hakai the Hakai in order for him to survive, in which by the end of it we get to see how Granola is very angry by this, because even his gloves are beginning to fall right through his hands, which once again goes as far as to show the effectiveness of this attack. But even then, Vegeta did not let up, because through the smoke, Vegeta had then carried on through in headbutting Granola in such a way that it ended up causing Granola in flying out towards a nearby city, and Granola knew this because he was not looking forward in damaging this city or any of the people within it. So to prevent anyone else from actually being in harm's way, Granola had stopped himself on top of the barrier, but by then it was already too late, because Vegeta was already in hot pursuit in swooping on down by kicking Granola so hard in the stomach that it literally then caused them to go crashing right through the barrier and into the city itself, which once again I think is a pretty cool thing to showcase more of the barbaric nature of having these battles take place, in making them out to be as vicious as they are, with Granola's body having to be shown skidding down on the ground. He then went on to slowly sit up by responding, "Wait, not here, take this elsewhere," Granola shouts. But with Vegeta looking absolutely crazy, that's when he went on to tell Granola, "Oh, and here I thought you didn't care about anything." And that's when Vegeta once again went on the offensive. He's attacking Granola unrelentlessly, and if you take a look at Granola's expression and his demeanor, he's pissed, he's angry, and he's annoyed, as he then went on to tell Vegeta, "I said not here." But even as Granola went on to punch Vegeta in the face, Vegeta once again had found his opening and used the move from Goku's playbook in biting down into Granola's hand, which I personally disagree with. This has always been and always has been Goku's thing, but to see Vegeta do it, I guess, in a fight of survival, it is what it is. But even then, as he went on to bite his arm, Granola is just shouting as he went on to slam him down by telling him, "You animal," as indeed he is, and he's acting like one, with Vegeta having to look up by laughing and telling him, "Haha, can't quite use your precious rapid-fire moves here, can you?" But Vegeta spoke a little too soon, because as soon as Granola went on to mount himself on top of Vegeta and pointing down directly at him, that was when he went on to tell him, "At this range, the city will be fine," and Vegeta is absolutely absolutely shook because he knew exactly what was about to happen, and without even having to think twice about it, Granola had then carried on in blasting Vegeta from point blank range with such ferocious and violent ki blast that even Vegeta's face tells the story in being in tremendous amounts of pain, as Granola is looking to put everything into this in making sure that Vegeta now stays down for good, so then he just continues to blast him and blast him and blast him and blast him with seemingly no end in sight, as we even get to notice from the barrier itself how smoke is now beginning to come through the little hole in which they fell through, which by then, as the dust began to settle and we get to see how Granola's holding his arm and huffing and puffing because Granola is in fact extremely tired by doing this, we then take a look in seeing how Vegeta is lying in this crater, once again reverting back down to his base form. He's seemingly knocked out, he doesn't seem to be conscious or aware of the situation at hand, and Granola is shown in tremendous amounts of pain. He's clutching onto his arm, and this could be due to the overall nullification of the Hakai that Vegeta had fired on him, but even then, if you pay close enough attention to Granola's left eye, he no longer has the red cerulean eye that he had before, but now instead, his eye is now back to normal. So it's interesting how the right eye stays as it is, whereas the left actually changes, and this to me is a sign that Granola is no longer at his peak, he is no longer using his full power, because if he did, he would only under the assumption be using both of his red cerulean eyes versus one, which again is a testament to how durable and persistent these Saiyans are, because as we see Granola's body stumbling backwards and having to fall down on the ground, Granola is trying to catch his breath, he's seemingly exhausted, he now believes that he had completed his mission, as it was only then as Granola was trying to catch his breath, he then went on to comment, "Learned your lesson yet, Saiyan?" But even then, as he was trying to catch his breath, Granola then went on to hear something, and as he proceeded to turn his head, inside of this hole within the building, he then looks inside in noticing how there are in fact two Shigarian civilians, one indeed having to be a mother and the other having to be a child, and this really struck Granola home because he wasn't expecting for there to be any Shigarians left within this city, and he was taken back as he saw a mother and a child within this building, which ultimately does have a direct connection with Granola's past. PTSD had then kicked in, because as we then take a look in going back and observing a flashback from Granola's past, a child Granola is shown having to run away and fleeing from these gigantic great apes that are ravaging throughout the entire city. As you can only imagine the state of panic and the desperation that this kid is going through in trying to escape and simply wanting to keep his life, because as the poor kid is then shown having to run inside of a church, he is only then met by none other than his mother, as his mother went on to shout his name in being shocked and happy that her child was in fact alive, to where as Granola fell into his mother's arms, that's when his mother went on to tell him, "You made it back to me, my little one." Yeah, Granola says, "The others helped me get away," but then, as soon as both Granola and his mom went on to look at something horrifying in front of them, Granola comes back into reality as Granola responds, "Oh no," as once again Vegeta is back up, as Vegeta went on to tell Granola, "Any grudges against us Saiyans are well deserved. How could I object to you destroying me here and now? However, by eradicating the Saiyans, aren't you just repeating history? You Ceruleans were never such a savage tribe, were you?" And Granola once again is catching heavy PTSD by then having to tell Vegeta, "That's nonsense. This planet was a peaceful one. Your people took everything from us, and I will never move past that." And Granola is really sick of Vegeta's antics, because he then went on to use the exact same move that Goku had done in using pressurized force in blowing Vegeta back, so much so that Vegeta's body went crashing through the city barrier and hitting the ground below, and Granola is slowly shown having to approach him because he was not looking to play any games despite the overall situation at hand. Vegeta just refuses to stay down, and this is really now beginning to annoy Granola, because Granola simply wants him dead and Vegeta is refusing to die. And as Granola is then shown standing in front of him, he then proceeded to put his hands together by telling him, "At last, I found my true resolve. I'm prepared to burn away my every life here. I'll summon every bit of power to make sure that you stay dead." And that was when Granola had then gone on to not only reactivate that same Cerulean eye on the left side of his face, but also he had then managed to create this massive energy ball right in front of him, as Granola then went on to continue, "My revenge against Frieza himself will have to wait until we are both in hell." And with the battle damaged and bloody Vegeta shown in a crater, he then went on to respond, "So I couldn't cut it. Apologies, Lord Beerus. I couldn't revert to the callous, unfeeling man I once was. That god of destruction power was beyond the scope of the novice like me. And with Vegeta then shown standing back up, he then went on to accept this by responding, "This is the Saiyan's fate. So be it." But Goku was not about to let that happen, because as Goku went on to see this, he then went on to respond, they're both willing to die? No, don't! And Goku at this point is running. He's trying to get there just in the nick of time to do something about it, but then, out of nowhere, Granola's ship is then shown flying over Goku, with Goku asking, who is that? As inside of the ship, we see Monaito, as even Monaito went on to ask, wait, that man... It can't be. Oatmeal, was that the Saiyan who Granola was tangling with? Correct. There is another as well, Oatmeal says. Oh, of all the crazy things, Monaito responds. As Granola's energy blast seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger, Monaito is overseeing this and noticing how Granola is the one behind this, as even Monaito comments, there, Granola's down there. As nobody can be seen getting close enough, as of course this blast is shown blowing everyone back, including Goku, as Goku went on to fall down by responding, darn it, I can't get any closer. We meet our doom together, Granola shouts, and Vegeta is legitimately prepared for this, and Monaito is not, because that's when he went on to open up the top of the ship by shouting, no, knock it off, Granola! And everyone is surprised by this, Vegeta, Goku, and even Granola, as Granola went on to respond, Monaito, why are you here? And Goku had then found his opening, because he knew that he had to do something to stop this kid from literally doing what he was about to do, and that's exactly what Goku did, because as soon as Goku ran on in, he football tackled Granola out of the way and dropping him down on the ground, as Goku then went on to shout, don't be stupid! You too, Vegeta, what are you thinking? But Vegeta's laughing. He's very battle damaged, but he doesn't seem to even care about literally anything going on, as Granola went on to sit up by responding, you again. Oatmeal, I should have known, meddling in my business. And as the ship went on to touch on down, Monaito finally exits, and Monaito seems to have something of interest in which he wants to tell Granola, because even Vegeta went on to ask, is that a Namekian? How, Goku asks. What's a Namekian doing here? As Granola went on to shout, why did you interfere, Monaito? Stand back and let me finish this. I just want it to end. I need this to be over. As Monaito responds, you've got some facts wrong, Granola. Sorry to say, it was a lie of mine that brought you here. There was one Saiyan who didn't earn your vengeance. And that's when Granola stopped in his tracks, as he went on to ask, explain, I don't understand. 40 years back, Monaito says, the one who actually saved us was a Saiyan named Bardock. And with Goku and Vegeta absolutely taken back by this, that's when Granola went on to ask, did I hear that right? A Saiyan was our savior? As only then, that was when Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 76 then comes to a close. Now, this was in fact without question one of the most pivotal moments for Vegeta's Ultra Ego transformation, in realizing the fact that even though Granola himself had also gained a significant boost in power, was Vegeta actually able to do the best that he could within his own ability to put Granola down, or was he going to essentially fall in battle? And it looked as though Granola even himself kind of realized at that point in time that in order to take at least one of these Saiyans down, Granola was actually even going to go as far as to risk his own life in seeing this all the way through, as we only then enter Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 77, with Monaito now going into great detail in describing the events of what had happened on that unfortunate day, and we get to see how Monaito and the other Cerealians are growing crops and they're farming, and it seems as though both the Namekians and the Cerealians seem to be getting along, which, as just mentioned, Monaito was not the only Namekian living amongst the Cerealians. As a matter of fact, there seemed to have been quite the population of both Cerealians and Namekians coexisting as one, which, as we get to see how everyone is smiling, everyone seems to be getting along, everyone seems to be helping each other, and this is very different by comparison to what we've seen go down on planet Vegeta, planet Earth, and any other planets within Universe 7, because instead of having these tribes and these different civilizations fight amongst each other, instead, they all seem to be coexisting very well enough within one ecosystem, and as we get to see them drinking and having fun, the narration while the Namekians and Cerealians are socializing went on to state, we Namekians got on well with the Cerealians, living in peace and helping each other out as good neighbors should, until one fateful night lit by the full moon. But it was only then where their moment of peace had then come to an end, because as soon as Monaito went on to look up, there was something about the moon that Monaito had been so fixated on and having to stare directly at it that Monaito had appeared to be a tad bit curious, but at the same time a little concerned about what was happening, because as Monaito had continued to stare directly at the moon, it was only then during that moment where Monaito had spotted a fleet of ships having to quickly make their way down towards planet Sorel, which to his curiosity, Monaito had no idea as to what the heck was going on, nor who these individuals were, until, in a kamikaze-like fashion, we then observe how several Saiyan space pods were then beginning to slam their way down onto the planet itself, in such a way that not only were these Saiyan space pods slamming directly into the crops and into people's homes, but these Saiyan space pods, if you really stop and take a good look at it, were also shown slamming into several Sorelians and Namekians that were inhabiting the land, which of course had gone on to kill them instantly, which to the surprise of both the Sorelians and Monaito could not believe as to what the heck was going on, as Monaito went on to fall down by responding, what in the world? As we then take a look by having an overhead shot and showing all of these craters now having to be shown within the crop fields,
Found a
and
match, just start in 2
presumably
minutes.
where either once the Namekians or the Sorelians were standing, they are no longer there, but instead we have Saiyan space pods, and out of these Saiyan space pods, as Monaito and the other Sorelians went on to look down, the doors of these pods were then beginning to open, but through them we then get to see, instead of a humanoid Saiyan having to step out, we then observe a massive shadow then beginning to cast over the Sorelians and Monaito. To everyone's horror on planet Sorel, the Saiyans have now evolved into gigantic Ozaru's great apes, and stomping around and destroying everything, which ultimately was planned from the beginning. So all of this was originally orchestrated, and with the Sorelians having to look on in horror, with the Namekians having to look on in horror, it almost kind of feels as though there's no way out of this situation, because nobody that was minding their own business was ever expecting for any of this to happen, as we also get to see how more of Frieza's minions are beginning to leave some of the ships and descend on down onto the ground, as ultimately enough the invasion had begun, and we get to see how the Great Apes are literally stomping around and destroying everything. They're breaking buildings, they're destroying livestock and crops all throughout the land, they're grabbing onto Sorelians and crushing them, they're stepping on them, they're blasting them away, as over on the other side, while Frieza's men had rounded up all of the Namekians and placing them in this little tiny circle, what followed seconds after was an absolute massacre, and that came courtesy of Frieza's men having to not only draw their weapons and gunning down all of the Namekians at the same time, all while Monaito is recapping the events of this horrifying day, as Monaito went on to then comment, there weren't many of us Namekians and Sorelians this horrifying day, as Monaito went on to then comment, there weren't many of us Namekians and Sorelians
Want to pay the TV station a little visit? Want to pay the TV station a little visit?
Can you hear me?
Flying Nimbus!
I've set a super time machine, as well as a crate of supplies. Here's how to launch. Find the power keys, then place them in the right spots.
Are you here to save me?
Flying Nimbus!
You found a power key. Go slot it. Great. You know what to do with that key.
Stay calm. Stay calm.
Anyone out there? Oh no!
Welcome. Thank
Thank you so much.
Close.
Ally down!
Flying Nimbus!
You intend to rescue them. Watch out for enemies. That's a new power key. Get off!
This is a big one. Hey, look back!
Fast danger awaits. Think before rushing in. Access the startup system from the central area. Just a little more to go, then you're done. Access the startup system from the central area. Just a little more to go. I'll send some supplies to help. Make good use of them. This is bad. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help them. An ally needs your help. You don't know what danger awaits. Think before rushing in. Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies.
Ow! You're done! Stay calm. Stay calm. What's the big idea? Stay calm. What's the big idea? Thought I was a goner there. Thought I was a goner.
Welcome.
An ally needs your help. We don't know what danger awaits. Think before rushing in.
Are you here to save me?
The startup system's under attack. It's dangerous, so tread carefully if you want to get closer. The startup system is under
Flying
attack.
Nimbus!
Stop it if you can, but retreat if you need to. Got it?
Holy hell. Flying Nimbus!
The startup system's destroyed. The escape time machine's almost prepped. You need to head for the beacon.
I really don't want to do this. Here goes something. Ow! Ah! Eee!
on this planet to begin with, so their invasion went off without much of a hitch. Which in the end, once everything was said and done, we then observe how a bloody and battle-damaged Monaito is clinging onto his arm, and he is the only Namekian left on planet Sorel, because all of the other Namekian inhabitants have been slaughtered with the exception of Monaito, and with Monaito having to oversee a body-stacked pile of dead corpses, one could only imagine as to what was going through Monaito's mind, as there was a sole survivor among that group, which coincidentally enough was one of the elder Namekians as he was clinging on to life before passing away. With Monaito injured, slowly making his way towards the elder, we then observe how in this elder's palm, he just so happened to have and protect the Sorelian Dragon Balls, in passing it over to Monaito by telling him, "The Dragon Balls, Monaito. You know what you must do." As Monaito's narration continues, "I found myself the last surviving Namekian on the planet, and the Sorelians didn't fare much better." And as we see how Monaito is holding on to these Dragon Balls, elsewhere the Sorelians are trying to do their best in standing off by holding their own against the giant great apes that were attacking the landscape, with of course the Sorelians shown using their guns, while at the same time also trying to snipe these Ozarus down, but to no avail, because even then, despite the overall situation at hand, A, the Sorelians were outnumbered, and B, the Sorelians were outmatched. Because all the while within the city, we also observe how a very familiar Ozaru with a scar on his face seems to be clinging onto a building very similar to the Western American King Kong, and having to scout the area while his comrade was going about his business in ravaging the city by destroying buildings and smashing down on all of the Sorelian people, which interestingly enough, this one giant great ape was the only great ape that wasn't causing any damage, and this great ape just so happened to be none other than Bardock. So it looked as though Bardock was seemingly enough interested and drawn to something, because while the others were stomping around and destroying the remnants of what was on the planet, Bardock was not, because it was in this moment where Great Ape Bardock had went on to oversee a child having to cry and running through the streets, and this was ultimately what was enough in catching Bardock's attention, which, again, interestingly enough, Bardock seems to be the only great ape that seems to have somewhat of control over this gigantic body, because while all the other Ozarus were doing their thing, Bardock was the only one that was not acting on violence. So instead, he kept his eyes on this kid in observing how this little child was running and running and running, until ultimately enough, he kept his eyes on the kid long enough to see that he ran inside of a church. So what Bardock did was he let go as he proceeded to land on the ground and having to walk in that very direction, which had then led him to that very church with a giant hole in the ceiling. And with Granola and his mother having to look up, Great Ape Bardock had went on to stick his head through the hole and looking on down and noticing how these two were in fact alive, as this was enough to scare Granola, so much so that due to the sheer terrifying feeling of having to see this with your own eyes, this was enough to scare Granola so much so that ultimately enough, Granola ended up fainting in his mother's arms and going unconscious after seeing Bardock for the first time, which one could only imagine as to what a parent would do if they were in that situation, because that was exactly what Granola's mother had felt like, especially when clinging on to her only child, which one could only make the assumption on whether or not Bardock was actually going to go through in ending both Granola and his mother's life, as all the while when going back to the Cerulean City, we then continue to see how the Great Apes are stomping around and destroying everything, but there appears to be one Cerulean warrior on the rooftop of a building having to oversee the carnage happening below, as this individual seems to be prepping for a massive attack. As another Cerulean went on to look up, it was only then clear enough that this warrior had the intention in doing something to stop the Great Apes, as one of the Cerulean civilians that was on the ground went on to look on up and shouting, "The moon! Aim for the moon!" "You got it," the Cerulean says, and this one Cerulean warrior meant business. As one of the Great Apes went on to notice this, the sole intention of what this Cerulean was meant business. As one of the Great Apes went on to notice this, the sole intention of what this Cerulean was meant business. As one of the Great Apes went on to notice this, the sole intention of what this Cerulean was
Can you hear me?
Flying Nimbus!
It's Trunks. I've set a super time machine, as well as a crate of supplies. Here's how to launch. Find the power keys, then place them in the right spots.
You're my savior. You're my savior. Someone save me!
You found a power key. Go slot it.
Thanks. Oh, come on!
Do not let anyone get away!
Flying Nimbus!
Hey, great! You found another power key. Use it quick. That's a new power key. Place it now. This is bad. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help them. Great. You know what to do with that key. startup system from the central area. Just a little more to go,
That
then
was a
you're done.
close one.
Central area. Just a little more to go, then you're done.
Close one.
Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies. You've got all 7 Dragon Balls. Summon Shenron at the altar. This is bad. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help them. I'll send some supplies to help. Make good use of them. Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies.
Now, understood.
planning on doing was destroying the moon and causing the great apes to revert back down to their humanoid forms, but this one great ape was seemingly not going to allow that to happen, because the second this great ape went on to notice what this Cerulean warrior was about to do, the great ape then sprung into action by charging directly at the Cerulean warrior, but even then, the Cerulean warrior was not backing down, so instead, he ends up firing this blast anyway, which ultimately enough went on to graze right past the great ape's skull, which not only went on to blow the great ape back, but at the same time, it left a massive laceration on the top of his skull, which will ultimately turn into a scar, as even the other great apes went on to see this after having to catch their attention, but even after when having to notice what this Cerulean warrior had done, it was already too late, because the Cerulean warrior was in fact successful, and the moon was destroyed in such a way that as soon as we get to see this massive explosion occur, the great apes are then beginning to shake because there's nothing to fuel them and having them remain as they are. So in typical Dragon Ball fashion, the great apes are now slowly but surely beginning to shrink on down back to their humanoid forms, to which as that same Cerulean warrior is then shown smiling, the Cerulean warrior then comments, we got him. Yeah? I wouldn't be too sure, says one of the Saiyans. Sorry, pal, but we're plenty strong even without our great ape forms. Strong enough anyway, as this spelled disaster for the lone Cerulean, because by the end of the day, when it was all said and done, his life was ultimately taken with an explosion taking place on the rooftop down below. We later notice how the same Cerulean warrior had gone to fall on down, and now he is dead, courtesy of the Saiyans having to end him once and for all. To where once the smoke cleared, the one Saiyan went on to comment, "Come on, Leek, let's mop up the rest and get out of here. Your head gonna be okay?" And with Leek shown pointing at his skull and noticing how in fact there was a massive laceration on the top of his head, this only now indicates that this individual Leek was the same great ape that tried to stop the Cerulean just moments ago. As all the while when going back to the church, we then take a look inside and seeing how Granola's mother was clenching onto an unconscious Granola, as standing across from Granola's mother was no longer a great ape, but instead it was Bardock. And I absolutely love this one shot shown here where Toyotaro actually takes the time in dedicating one entire page for a specific character, which Toyotaro is not really known for doing, but he did so with Bardock. So Bardock is standing there, he looks great, he's analyzing and assessing the situation, because one can only imagine the amount of tension within the atmosphere between both parties, because Granola's mother is assuming that this individual is probably out to kill her, when in fact Bardock is eerily enough calm, right? So before Bardock could even say a word, he then notices how Granola's mother had taken it upon herself to not waste any more time in being the first person to fire the first shot, which really didn't do much outside of grazing Bardock's shoulder and blowing away one of his armor pieces. But even then, despite Granola's mother having to respond in a very hostile manner, which one could not blame her in doing so, Bardock is not responding, but instead, once again, he's standing there eerily quiet, analyzing the situation. And even then, when taking a look at Granola's mom and seeing the position that she's in, nobody can really blame Granola's mother in acting the way she did, because she's simply trying to defend and protect her son, which oddly enough, during this flashback, we then have a flashback to Bardock as a voice went on to cry out, "Ah yeah, of course you missed his birth. Do you have any idea how many months you've been gone?" Gine asks. "Oh, that explains why your tummy's flat again," says Bardock. "I swear," Gine adds, "do Saiyan men have anything resembling emotions?" The little guy's in the incubator back there, thank you. Can you help me pick a name? Which interestingly, outside of their house, we see how Raditz is playing with beetles with other Saiyans, as Bardock and Gine then look in overseeing this massive incubation pod with Goku having to be inside, and Bardock seems to be surprised, as Gine went on to ask, "What's wrong now? You've seen a baby before." As little Goku is shown resting, Bardock then comments, "Kakarot. We'll call him Kakarot." "Kakarot," Gine says. "Sure, that's a fine name." As she then went on to hug the incubator, she continues, "Grow up and be big and strong, my little Kakarot." As we only then go back to the present flashback, we can kind of gain a better understanding as to what was going through Bardock's mind, because during this moment in having to see Granola and his mother, the first thing that Bardock went on to think about was in fact his wife and his kid back home. But fortunately enough, that moment of tension was ultimately broken, as Leek went on to walk on over by asking, "Bardock, sir, we were looking for you." With Granola's mother shocked, he then continues, "The mission's done, and we have orders to pull out." "Is that so?" Bardock asks. "You head home without me, Leek. I'm sticking around to check for survivors." Very well, sir, says Leek, but try to be quick about it because word is that Frieza himself will be here soon. Good to know, Bardock adds. And with Leek then shown taking his leave,
Bentley,
Bardock
what's
went
up?
on to use his scouter and commenting, "These two are the last of them." Which Granola's mom is
Bentley,
really
what's up?
putting this into question because she's baffled that Bardock had not gone on to kill her, as Bardock then comments, "Deep in the mountains, a power level of 5. Just an animal maybe? No. The movements are too deliberate. This is something intelligent," Bardock adds. As meanwhile, within the mountains, as we see how all of the other Namekian houses are destroyed and the landscape is ravaged, the only other house that was not damaged was in fact Monaito's. As within Monaito's home, we then see how Monaito is trying to do his best in either hiding the Dragon Balls or doing something of the sorts to protect them, until Monaito has this lingering feeling that something or someone is making their way ever so towards his home, and Monaito acts quickly by grabbing onto his cane and setting himself up in such a way that he was actually planning on attacking whoever was about to step through, as seconds later the individual that just so happened to have entered his home was none other than Bardock, as Monaito went on to raise his cane by shouting, "Take this!" But Bardock effortlessly, without even having to look, grabbed onto the cane by asking, "A Namekian? Your power level jumped to 213? Guess you can control it," which explains how you managed to keep hidden. And as Monaito went on to look on over towards Bardock's shoulder, underneath Bardock's arm, he then notices how Bardock was in fact carrying a Cerulean child, Granola. To where once Granola's mom comes in and Bardock hands the kid on over to Granola's mom, that's when Monaito went on to comment, "Ceruleans! I didn't dare to hope for survivors." "I'm Muesli," Granola's mother says, "and this is my boy Granola. Could we please take shelter for here?" she asks, as Monaito responds, "Of course you can. My name is Monaito," he adds. "Frieza is coming, and soon," Bardock comments. "Keep hidden and off his radar," as Monaito went on to ask, "Aren't you a Saiyan though? What's your ploy here?" "I just felt like it," Bardock says, "that's all. I better be off. Keep surviving as long as you can." "Wait," Monaito says, "tell us your name at least." As Bardock's back is turned, he then responds, "Bardock." As back within the present day, we then see how Goku and Vegeta and Granola are all listening very carefully, as Granola went on to respond, That means I'm only alive thanks to that Saiyan's mercy?" "Yep," Monaito says. "Sorry for keeping that from you." And with Goku and Vegeta eerily quiet, Monaito then went on to turn towards Goku by telling him, "And you're the spitting image of that Bardock fella." "Huh? Me?" Goku asks. "Yeah, you. Any of you go by that name, Bardock?" As Goku responds, "I don't know. I was raised by Grandpa Gohan on Earth, so I don't know much about the Saiyans." "Kakarot," Vegeta says. "Bardock was none other than your father." "Huh? My father? Really?" And everyone was shocked, as Monaito comments, What a twist of fate. You're the man's son then." "This is the son of the one who saved me?" Granola asks. "I wish I knew a darn thing about my dad," Goku says, "but I can't say that I do." "In any case," Vegeta adds, "your soft-hearted nature clearly runs in the family." Hang on," Granola shouts. "What about my mother? How come my mother didn't survive?" As Monaito responds, "Well, you see," and with everyone once again paying very close attention to what Monaito was about to say, we once more go back to the 40-year flashback as Bardock is shown with Monaito having to cry out, "Wait up, Bardock, let me see that arm of yours." Which of course Bardock does do exactly that by showing him his arm, and what Monaito does is, in typical Namekian fashion, he heals the wound, as Bardock responds, "That's something else. Never knew Namekians could do that," with Monaito responding, "The really gifted ones can even restore your energy in the blink of an eye. Takes me all I've got to heal up a little scratch though," he adds, but then all of a sudden Bardock's scouter then begins to detect something as Bardock comments, "Someone's near." And with everyone trying to avoid being caught, it was only then during that moment where Bardock had went on to spot 4 individuals near the cliffside, as of course these individuals were none other than the Heaters, Maki, Oil, Gas, and Alec. As Bardock comments, "The freaking Heaters? Who might they be?" Monaito asks. "They act as exterminators for planets that Frieza has conquered. Simply put, They're brokers. Guess they've set their sights on this planet, he adds. Treating our planet like some sort of thing to be sold, Monaito adds. And with the Heaters overseeing how the Saiyans are in fact leaving, Alek found this to be the perfect opportunity, as Alek went on to then comment, perfect. The Cerelians and Namekians are out of the picture. Get word to the Shigarians and start negotiating on a price, Oil. Sure. As Maki comments, we're gonna piece them good, right, Alek? An arm, a leg, and then some, with Alek responding, uh-huh. Once we've cleaned the place up, I won't sell for less than 100 billion pull. But what about the cut for Frieza's army, Oil asks? Toss them 1/10 of the total. Ha, easy money for us, Maki adds. Most of Frieza's people are just in this business for the carnage, Alek comments. Battle-crazed diehards without any brains to know a planet's true value. As of course Bardock is overhearing this on his scouter, Alek then went on to continue, as long as Frieza himself doesn't catch on, we're golden. Unlike his goons, Maki adds, he's got brains and a power level that's off the charts. So we've better watch our step. As Gas went on to chime in, one day we will reign supreme over Frieza's army. Right you are, Gas. And with Bardock overhearing this, Muesli walks on over by asking who's over there. The Heaters won't trump over Frieza with might, but with wits, wealth, and intel. Our day will come eventually. And until that day, Maki adds, we'd better save up a juicy fortune. Yeah. Exactly, Alek adds. The Heaters aren't destined to serve that nasty lizard forever. So, they're plotting to betray Frieza, Bardock says. As moments later, unbeknownst to Granola, who had just woken up from being unconscious, Granola had went on to walk outside in having to spot his mom and having to see Monaito, but at the same time, he also sees Bardock, and the first thing that Granola sees on Bardock is in fact his tail, and because of this, Granola goes into a frenzy as he went on to scream out, Saiyan! Which ultimately was the worst case scenario for everybody there, because this went on to alert the Heaters in giving away Bardock and Monaito's position, which out of all people there, Monaito had to act quickly in using somewhat of a technique to knock Granola out, because although Granola did not know any better, Monaito went on to put Granola to sleep, as he then went on to comment, your boy's just fine, he's just taking a nap. That stupid little kid, Bardock says. Why did you have to shout like that? Is someone over there, Alek asks? Damn it. Quick, give me your robe. As once the Heaters go deeper into the forest in discovering Muesli, Monaito, and of course Bardock, Alek seems to be a tad bit curious as he went on to comment, a Namekian? And a pair of Cerelians? And who might you be? I was just about to slaughter these survivors I spotted. Ah, you're one of Frieza's men. Get on with it then. To which Muesli and Monaito are scared because they really don't know as to what's about to happen, and Bardock seems to be very hesitant on following through with his plan, as Alek went on to ask, well, having second thoughts? Actually, Bardock comments, the Namekian just used some strange power. Maybe it's worth checking out before killing them, but then Alek was not having it, so what he does is Alek quickly went on to draw his gun and shooting right past Bardock, and the person that he ended up shooting was none other than Muesli, Granola's mother, and he had shot her seemingly right around the area where her heart is, and Monaito is shocked. Bardock is puzzled because nobody among that group was ever expecting for this to happen, as even then with Muesli shown having to fall on down and hitting the ground, you can ultimately feel the tension, you can ultimately feel the sadness going on here, because from there, as Alek went on to put his gun away, he then adds, there you go, kill the kid and take the Namekian and make it quick. And Bardock was angry because, of course, this wasn't his intention, and as Bardock, interestingly enough, went on to clench his fists, with, mind you, his back turned towards the Heaters, the only person that was able to kind of understand what was about to happen was Gas. Because the second Bardock quickly went on to turn around in unleashing an attack, the first person to step on in defending the Heaters was, of course, Gas, because Gas went on to move in so quick in creating a barrier to prevent Bardock's attack from hitting, which went on to create a massive explosion to where once the dust ended up settling, that's when Alek comments, some nerve of that guy. What's really going on here? Is he working for Frieza or isn't he? What now, Maki asks? They gave us the slip. They must have been eavesdropping, Oil says. This could put us in hot water, Alek adds. As this bought Bardock enough time and grabbed... This could put us in hot water, Alek adds.
Make me immortal!
Let the Carnival of Terror begin. Let the Carnival of Terror begin. Give me the Dragon Ball.
I'm sorry, everyone.
You have my thanks.
What have you done?
Give me the Dragon Ball.
Sorry, you got the wrong guy.
If you do not have them, then I have no need for them.
Flying Nimbus!
Well then, I'll be waiting in my spaceship.
Here comes a pain.
Transform!
Take them!
Let's go! Let's go!
Damn you! Bastard!
grabbing onto Granola, Monaito, and Muesli and getting away, as Monaito went on to then tell Bardock, "So sorry, it's no use. My power ain't enough to save her." "Damn it," Bardock says. "What's gotten into me?" "Don't know, but what's your next move?" Monaito asks, and with Bardock looking over towards Granola, he then went on to add, "The Heaters are bound to come looking for us. They have to die," Alec says. "Let me go," Gas comments. "All three will perish by my hand." "Oh? Fine. Get it done," Alec says. Meanwhile, we'll prepare a meeting with Frieza. "Make sure this mess is dealt with before he shows up, Gas." "Of course," Gas comments, and with Gas then shown taking his leave, the plan was set and put into motion as once again we go back to the present day. We get to see how on the Heater ship Gas seems to be overlooking the planets, as Alec went on to ask, "A trip down memory lane of that day 40 years ago? Sure. The one you fought back then was a Saiyan, right?" "Yes," Gas comments. "I get it. In a way, your own revenge is tied up in all of this. I will not suffer such indignity ever again," Gas comments. "I have grown strong." "You sure have," Alec comments, "but never hurts to have insurance. Just one more and the set's complete. So step on it," Maki shouts. "We'll nab you soon enough," Dragon Ball number 2, to where Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 77 had then concluded. Now, it goes without question that this in fact was a tipping point within the Granola the Survivor story, because not only did this result in Granola, Goku, and Vegeta ceasing their fight for Monaito's story and explaining to them of the history of what really went down involving the Cerealians, the Namekians, the Heaters, and even what happened involving Bardock, in now finally having to learn of what truly went down involving Alec and Granola's mother Muesli, with the finger now being redirected in going from blaming the Saiyans to now blaming the Heaters, specifically Alec, as we kick off Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 78 with the Heater clan's ship being shown having to desperately dash towards the last remaining Cerealian Dragon Ball in such a way that as they're shown making their way ever so closer, Maki then gets a radio call from none other than Oil, as she is then also shown turning her head and looking outside of the window and noticing that everything now appears to be a lot more calm than how it was before, as Maki then went on to comment, "What's going on, Oil? Any news? We're all good on our end." And with Maki looking down and noticing something very concerning, she then quickly went on to rush outside of the ship and having to scream for Alec by telling him, "We've got trouble, Alec. Granola and the Saiyans stop kicking the crap out of each other." "Why?" Alec asks. "Some old Namekian just popped up and stopped the fighting." "A Namekian, huh?" "Monaito," Alec says. "He knows better than to meddle." "Let's go kill them all," Gas suggests. "A massacre?" Maki asks. "Good idea, especially since those three idiots are probably weakened from all of their fighting." "Right. Fine," Alec says. "You two head that way. Meanwhile, I've got the dragon to see about a wish." "Cool. And here's the radar," says Maki, "and the spell that you would need to summon the dragon." "And we're
Alright
off,"
guys, next
Maki
match
says.
should start in 2 minutes.
"Get it done," Alec responds.
Stay tuned.
"I will see your wish fulfilled,
guys, next
Gas."
match should start in
"I'm
2 minutes.
fine just as I am," Gas responds. "Don't be silly. This is the only surefire way to achieve our goals. Our plans all rely on you. You know that, yeah?" "Yes, I know," Gas responds. "Hey, no more time for chit-chatting. Let's..." "Yes, I know," Gas responds. "Hey, no more time for chit-chatting. Let's..." "Yes, I know," Gas responds. "Hey, no more time for chit-chatting. Let's..."
super time machine, as well as a crate of supplies. Here's how to launch. Find the power keys, then place them in the right spots. Find the power keys, then place them in the right spots. You found a power key. Go slot it. Great. You know what to do with that key. Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies. Ally down! Watch out for enemies.
Oh no! Thank you! Thank you!
Flying Nimbus!
You're my savior! You're my savior! Are you here to save me? Are you here to save me?
Flying Nimbus!
That's a new power key. Place it now.
Oh no! I just can't win!
Flying Nimbus!
Hey, great! You found another power key. Use it quick!
Too close for comfort.
Access the startup system from the central area. Just a little more to go. Then you're done. Access the startup system from the central area.
Flying Nimbus!
This is bad. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help them. Holy hell.
Here comes a pain!
Oh no!
You've got all 7 Dragon Balls. Summon Shinron at the altar. Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies. This is bad. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help them. The
Come
startup
forth,
system's
Shinron!
under attack. It's dangerous, so tread carefully if you want to get closer.
State your... It shall be done. I will grant your wish.
You're done!
Let's move, Gas! And as soon as Maki and Gas are then shown leaving, Alec is then shown sinisterly smiling as he seems to be up to no good, as meanwhile back with Vegeta, Goku, and Granola, Granola just can't seem to believe that this entire time he seemed to have been lied to, as Granola went on to comment, how can this be? Alec was the one who murdered my mother? As both Goku and Vegeta are then shown standing there eerily quiet, Granola had then gone on by grabbing Monaito by the shirt and telling him, "You knew the whole time? And you still let me work for those heaters? You gotta understand," says Monaito. "It was the only way for us to survive." "Cut it out," Granola Goku says. "Let's hear him out." "You kept me in the dark," Granola responds, "for all of these decades, letting them use me like that." "Well, did he win?" Vegeta asks, with everyone looking very confused. That's when Vegeta went on to continue. "Did Bardock defeat Gas?" "He sure did," says Monaito. "That's how we've survived." "Glad to hear it," Goku says. "Bardock was a low-class warrior as far as I know," says Vegeta. "Was Gas really that weak?" "Nope. Just the opposite," Monaito says. "Gas was very strong, but..." As right before Monaito can finish his sentence, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, the sky suddenly turns dark, with Vegeta then having to comment, What's this? The sky has now grown dark." "What?" the Goku responds. "It's like when we call Shenron," and with Monaito knowing exactly what this was, that's when Monaito comments this. "No, it can't be." As indeed, unfortunately enough, it was, because Alec had gone on in finally summoning Tarambo the Dragon, to where once Tarambo had made his presence known, Tarambo went on to address Alec by asking, "You who have collected the 2 Dragon Balls, state your wish." "Look at that," says Alec. "A wish-granting dragon in the flesh." Why is it suddenly dark outside, the Shigarians ask, as this really didn't last as long as one would expect, because just before you know it, the sky was then suddenly back to normal, with Vegeta commenting, "The darkness is gone." "What was that about?" Goku says, but then both Goku and Vegeta suddenly then detect a massive energy signal around them, as Vegeta went on to respond, Hey, what's that enormous power signature?" "Don't know, but it's headed our way," Goku says. "Huh? What was that something about coming this way?" Monaito asks. I know that power," Granola responds. "It's here," Vegeta shouts, as indeed it was, because with such energy making its way towards everyone, our heroes did their best in trying to maintain their balance in holding their position, as of course these individuals have finally arrived, in which as they did, Goku and Vegeta quickly went on to turn around in noticing 2 individuals standing on top of a cliff, with Maki then having to ask, "What's up? Looks like the gang's all here." "You jerk," says Goku. "We know the whole story now. Why are you here?" with Maki responding, "Now that our plans are in motion, all that's left to do is take out the trash. And hey, thanks for being a team player for all of these years, Granola." And Granola is pissed, as he then went on to respond, "You brought these Saiyans here to kill me, didn't you? You low-down dirty. You didn't leave us much of a choice," Maki says, "especially when you decided to become the strongest in all of the universe. Talk about cheating. Too bad for you, you're not the only one who could make a wish." "A wish?" Goku asks, and with Oil and Maki then positioning themselves and introducing someone, that's when Maki continues, "On that note, now presenting Gas, the actual strongest warrior in the universe." "What?" Vegeta asks. "Another one?" As even with Granola having to look on in absolute shock, it was only then, during that moment, where the new strongest warrior of Universe 7 had emerged, and this warrior happened to be none other than Gas, which in a stunning fashion, as we get to observe how Gas is slowly rising up behind Maki and Oil, there is a drastic difference in Gas's appearance by comparison to the beginning of the manga chapter, because after using up the Cerulean Dragon Balls in now making Gas seemingly what is the most powerful warrior in Universe 7, not only was Gas now visibly much taller than how he was before, seemingly the tallest individual on the battlefield, but he also seems to have put on more muscle, his hair had gotten much more longer, and with Oil and Maki introducing him the way he is, Gas is ready for war. And this is actually very symbolic to some of the other debuts we've seen be done before, which at the same time, very similar to when Granola had first made his wish in becoming the strongest, it looks as though there is somewhat of a rapid aging process that goes into this wish having to be made, because not only is Gas much bigger than how he was before, but he also visibly looks much older than how he was before as well. As even then with Gas shown having to stare everyone down very intensely with malice intent, nobody on the opposing side can seem to believe as to what had happened. Monaito, Goku, Granola, as even Granola went on to then comment, Is that really you, Gas? "I feared as much," Monaito says. "They must have used the Dragon Balls." What? Vegeta asks. There are Dragon Balls on this planet? Yes, Granola responds. I use them to become the strongest in the universe. That explains it, Goku responds. But by that point, nothing else mattered to begin with because Gas was the first to take initiative in going as far as to showcase his newly gained powers by slowly having to lift up his finger as he proceeded to observe our heroes from above in shooting down an energy beam beneath them, which mind you, he did have full control over, in which from there, not only were our heroes concerned as to what Gas was about to do, but it didn't take them long enough to figure out exactly what he was planning because from there, Gas went on to quickly lift his hand up in the air and slicing in between Granola, Monaito, Goku, and Vegeta, which in a state of panic, Vegeta had shouted for everyone to move out of the way, and as they did, Gas's energy beam was nearly shown having to slice right through our heroes, which thankfully enough, as they had gone on to act quickly in jumping out of the way, Gas's energy beam instead was shown having to cut right through Monaito's ship in such a quick and vicious way in making sure that even if something were to happen that they could not use Monaito's ship to get away. As soon as Gas had ceased fire and taking a look at everyone's reaction, Granola then went on to comment, my ship. But even then, Gas was only simply demonstrating the fruits of his power because Gas went on once again to not waste any more time by then being shown lifting up his hand in the air and creating an energy trident in his hand. Gas seriously meant every word that he had told Elec in coming here to do business, and that's exactly what Gas had done because without even skipping a beat, Gas proceeded to throw the energy tridents directly in Granola's direction, as by the time the energy trident got close enough, Granola was not able to register as to what the heck was just about to happen. So instead, by the time Granola had given off any kind of reaction, it was only right then and there during that moment where Gas's energy trident had gone on to impale both of Granola's shoulders along with his legs that had not only hit Granola with such tremendous force in causing Granola to go flying backwards, but by also making sure that his prey remained where he was, Granola was now stuck on one half of Monaito's ship, which one could only imagine the amount of agony that Granola at this point is going through because you can see it upon Granola's face that he's screaming that he's in pain, as everyone else seemingly can't even believe this, with Goku included. And the moment Gas went on to leap on down below and now making his way ever so closer towards his victims, Gas had wanted to make sure that everyone there had already known what he was all about, as Gas then went on to comment, I never liked you. I provide enough muscle for the heaters. You are not needed. And with Granola then shown screaming in agony, that's when Gas continues, at last, I am free to kill you. But despite Goku wanting to intervene in doing something to stop Gas, what Gas ends up doing instead is with one snap of his finger, Gas ultimately ends up creating these weighted cubes that end up appearing around Goku's body, which subsequently enough can be looked at kind of similar to what Hearts does in Super Dragon Ball Heroes by creating these gigantic cubes that end up weighing you down and using gravity against you. So this is kind of a similar technique used
Connection to
on
the host
Goku
has been
during
lost.
that
We gotta
moment
wait
in which
again.
caused Goku to hit the ground below, to where on top of being exhausted and tired from his battle with Granola prior, not only was Granola then vulnerable in being executed by Gas, but Goku was as well. Which again, when you stop and look at it, Goku's essentially defenseless in having to fight back against Gas, as Goku then went on to comment, whoa, I can't move. You must be that Saiyan son. Yep, says Maki. I heard him mention that earlier, says Oil. That would explain the familiar face, Gas responds. Does his father still live? That entire generation of Saiyans was slain by Frieza himself, Vegeta says. Only a few members of our tribe have survived the purge. Is that so, Gas asks. Works for us, Maki responds. We'll finish what Frieza started and take out the rest of the trash. Just hang on a minute, Goku says. Why do you have to kill us in the first place? You and Granola must perish, Gas says, as do all who might threaten our plans. As seconds later, just as he had done before, Gas winds up spawning an energy axe right above his head and clutching onto the handle in such a way that Gas absolutely intends on using this against Goku, because as Gas proceeded to wind his axe back without even batting an eye, while on the ground unable to do anything to save himself from this particular situation, Gas saw this as being the absolute best best opportunity possible in beheading Goku on the spot, which ultimately that's exactly what Gas was intending to do, because as he proceeded to swing the axe down, Goku couldn't do anything to escape this, but instead he closed his eyes because he knew that perhaps maybe this was going to be that moment to where he was going to be off for good, until out of nowhere a blast ends up hitting Gas from behind and throwing Gas off balance for a moment, which allowed for Gas to release his grip on the axe, which the axe came crashing down right next to Goku's head. And as soon as Gas went on to turn around, to his absolute surprise, it was Granola that had gone on to save Goku as Monaito was shown holding the trident. Gas couldn't seem to believe it. With Granola shown having to aim his arm out, he then went on to acknowledge Gas by telling him, "The title of the strongest belongs to me." But even then, Gas was having none of it,
Just
because
started 2
with
minutes
Goku shown
hopefully.
on the floor, Gas immediately took initiative in not only once again dashing directly towards Granola's direction, but at the same time, he had gone on to spawn another weapon in his hand, which once again, he had gone as far as to use this in smiting Granola across the face with such tremendous force that you could visibly see how Granola was in trouble and seemingly had no chance against Gas. And with one swing that landed across Granola's face, Monaito was worried. With Granola's body shown hitting the ground and sliding down on the floor, Gas was not done, because from there, he had gone to turn his weapon forward in positioning himself in such a way that he seemingly wanted to strike Granola's body directly, and Granola was shook, because as soon as Gas once again came dashing right towards him, Gas did not let up by attacking Granola's body over and over and over, strike after strike after strike. The intensity of such blows was so much for Granola that you could see once again how he's spitting out blood, he's getting knocked back, and there's really nothing that Granola can do in this particular situation to make a difference, as this has now become a very bad situation for our heroes, because Goku can't do anything to help Granola. Granola himself is now being slaughtered by Gas, as Gas seems to not even let up in striking Granola repeatedly, as with both Maki and Oil having to observe this by smiling, Maki then went on to comment, "You idiot, Gas's wish came after yours, which makes him stronger, duh." Which once again, when going back to Gas, we then get to see which makes him stronger, duh. Which once again, when going back to Gas, we then get to see which makes him stronger, duh. Which once again, when going back to Gas, we then get to see.
Guys, technical difficulties. Give me a second. Guys, technical difficulties. Give me a second.
I need help! You're a big help! Big help!
Flying Nimbus!
am I?
That's a new power key.
You be careful too, okay?
That's a new power key.
You be careful too, okay?
What's up, man? What's up, man?
Flying Nimbus!
Flying Nimbus!
Great. You know what to do with that key. The startup system for the super time machine is ready. Head there now.
Flying Nimbus!
The startup system is under attack. It's dangerous, so tread carefully if you want to get closer. You've got all 7 Dragon Balls. Summon Shenron at the altar.
Stay calm. Stay calm.
Bastard!
Oh man.
I'll send some supplies for help. Make good use of them. Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies.
Now, stay understood.
Stay calm. Stay calm.
Here comes the pain!
Thanks!
how there is an extension of the weapon that he was using, as he was now repositioning himself and now using this weapon kind of similar to that of a staff in knocking Granola up in the sky. And as he did, Granola's body was shown being thrown across the sky as he proceeded to then land back down on the ground. And as he did, the weapon that Gas was using was then beginning to dematerialize, as Gas went on to then acknowledge Granola by telling him, "Elec saw value in your strength, but I never did." And with Granola shown slowly standing up with his entire body shaking, even Vegeta had gone on and calling Gas scum. But then, unbeknownst to everybody else, Monaito ends up showing up and finally doing something and taking action to help our heroes, as Monaito had used his abilities in getting rid of the weights that were holding Goku down, as Goku went on to tell him, "Thanks a bunch. Let me heal you," says Monaito. "You sure?" "Nice one," says Maki. "You show him, Gas." "But I have a request," Monaito asks, as he's then shown healing Goku. He then continues, "I know I've got no right to ask you for favors, but please save Granola for me." "Sure," Goku says. "I'll do what I can." But even when going back to Granola, as he was shown attempting to punch Gas, he then went on to shout, "Take this! Why did you let me live?" And with Gas dodging each and every single one of his attacks, he then went on to respond, "We did not learn that you two have survived until several years after the fall of planet Sorel." As even with Gas shown catching on to one of Granola's punches, he then went on to squeeze on down in literally breaking Granola's hand right within his palm, as you can almost feel the agony coming from Granola as he's screaming with blood having to pour from his mouth. Gas then went on to continue, "By that point, you had already made a name for yourself as a bounty hunter." And as soon as Gas went on to kick Granola away, Granola's body was shown being dragged down on the floor, with Gas having to continue. Elec said it would be a waste to kill such a resource, so he decided to hire you instead. Which, to Granola's surprise, the moment Gas had gone on to bring this up, in telling Granola this, it then clicked in Granola's head as he began to remember his past, as we now dive into a flashback of Granola when he was a kid again, in seeing how a little Granola, after of course some time had passed following the death of his mother Muesli by the hands of Elec, as Granola did not know this during that time. We then take a look at how Granola during that point had actually gone on to become a bounty hunter by training in the woods, and you can see how Granola then during that time period was beginning to come into his own in honing himself in becoming a very skilled sniper slash bounty hunters, with the Heaters having to oversee this. The intention that Elec had here was not to lose a prospect such as Granola, as of course he might be useful to him as time goes on. So instead, Elec rather than had different intentions for Granola rather than killing him, as Elec then went on to comment, "So, he's the bounty hunter who's been making waves. Why are you here?" Elec asks Monaito. "You can't take Granola." Heh, as if you could do anything to stop us. "I'm guessing you didn't tell him I killed his mother. If the boy knew the truth, he'd run with some half-baked plan for revenge. He'd get himself killed." "You're smarter than you look," Elec says. "The boy thinks it was luck that he had survived. He doesn't know what really happened on that cursed day." "Good," says Elec. "And you'll keep that mouth shut, you old coot, because the second you blab, both of your lives are over." "Hey kid, come over here," Elec says. And as soon as Granola had done exactly that, Granola had no idea as to who Elec was, as he went on to ask, "Who are you? We've heard the tales, and they say that you got some skills. Why not come work for me?" Elec asks. "You will be well paid for your trouble. Don't you want to help the old man move out of this rinky-dink shack?" And with Granola looking on absolutely baffled, we then come back into the past, as Monaito then went on to continue, "I think I made the wrong choice back then. It would have been better to die than serve Elec. You did it so the two of you can survive," Goku says. "You didn't have much of a choice. They are the bad guys here. I don't even live up to being an Namekian," Monaito says. "I can't even manage to restore your energy." And even with Goku then acknowledging this, he then quickly turns his head by shouting, "Vegeta, don't you have another Senzu bean?" "Yes, but it's stored in my armor, which I tossed away." "What the heck, Vegeta?" But right before anything else, there was a massive explosion seen behind Goku and Vegeta, as that went on to interrupt their conversation, as through the smoke within the distance, Granola's body once again is shown being literally dragged across the landscape, and there was nothing during that point where either Goku or Vegeta could do anything to stop Gas with, and Granola right now is placed in such a difficult position to where he's unable to fight back, and because of this, it leaves him more vulnerable vulnerable than anybody else on the battlefield. As Monaito and Goku proceeded to look on, Goku then went on to comment, "He's out cold and not getting up. Thanks for the healing, old man. I feel much better now. Vegeta, go back and find your armor. I'll try to hold my own in the meantime. Eat it as soon as you find it," with Vegeta asking, "Really? Only fair," Goku says. "I ate the first one, remember?" "Very well," Vegeta says. "Don't die, Kakarot." "You can transform into your freaky face mode again and beat Gas," Goku says, and as soon as he ends up taking off, Vegeta took such offense to this as he then went on to ask, "Freaky face mode? It's called Ultra Ego, you fool!" Because from that point, as soon as Goku got in between Gas and Granola, Goku then went on to tell Gas, "Listen, buddy, what you guys are doing here is just too cruel." So, the endangered species have become friends. Not your place, outsider. And as soon as Gas went on to spawn a literal sword from his hand, he then went on to continue, "This is just how the heaters operate." Which from there, once again, without wasting any more time, Gas attempts to impale Goku by using this sword, as with Goku seeing this and taking immediate action, what Goku ends up doing is he powers up back into Super Saiyan Blue in grabbing onto Gas's sword with his bare hands and preventing Gas from impaling him, which even then Gas himself had seemed to be very surprised by this because Gas's intention was to just get rid of this guy without there having to be any pushback, but instead Goku is in fact kind of pushing back now, and if you look very closely, Gas was literally inches away from impaling Goku through the chest, to where Goku had made sure that Gas was not going to do this, so instead he ends up shattering Gas's sword, which really goes as far as to kind of show you how strong Super Saiyan Blue Goku really is, because mind you, he's doing this while at the same time fighting the new so-called strongest in the universe, right? As Gas takes a step back by looking at his sword and not believing what he had just seen, as Goku from there went on to tell him, "You won't kill me that easily," to where then it was Goku being the one shown charging directly at Gas, and as soon as Goku attempted in kicking Gas directly in the face, what Gas ended up doing was once again similar to the weapons that he has spawned. He spawned a shield literally right around his arm and wrist in preventing himself from being struck by Goku, as he kind of used this as sort of similar to that of a Captain America. From being struck by Goku, as he kind of used this as sort of similar to that of a Captain America. Being struck by Goku,
Can you hear me?
Flying
It's Trunks.
Nimbus!
I've set a super time machine, as well as a crate of supplies.
Flying Nimbus!
Here's how to launch. Find the power keys, then place them in the right spots. You found a power key. Go slot it. Hey, great! You found another power key. Use it quick.
Is anyone out there? I am grateful. Get the hell out of here! Give me a freaking break. Flying Nimbus! Nimbus!
do with that key? Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies.
What's the big idea? Thought I was a gun.
That's a new power key. Place it now. This is bad. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help them. Hey, great! You found another power key. Use it quick.
Holy hell.
Bastard! Ally down! If you intend to rescue them, watch out for enemies. Ally down! An ally needs your help! Watch out for We don't know what danger awaits. Think before rushing in. An ally needs your help. We don't know what danger awaits.
I owe you one. Flying Nimbus!
This is bad. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help them. Somebody's down. Exercise extreme caution if you're going to help
Stay calm. Stay calm.
The startup system for the super time machine is ready. Head there now.
Stay calm.
The startup system for the super time machine is ready. Head there now. I'll send some supplies to help. Make good use of them. Watch out for enemies.
Holy hell.
The startup system is under attack. Stop it if you can, but retreat if you need to. Got it? The startup system's under attack. It's dangerous, so tread carefully if you want to get closer. The startup system's destroyed. The escape time machine's almost prepped. You need to head for the beacon that's indicated by a blue light. I've sent the escape time machine. Use it to get out of there.
Now understood.
You're no match for me.
America shield because it looks very identical to it, especially when you take a look at how it's structured with the straps having to go around his forearm and whatnot. So from there, Gas was able to neg Goku's kick, but Goku wasn't finished because once again, he attempted to attack Gas by punching him, but Gas ends up blocking it by using that exact same shield as a means of protection. But Goku wasn't letting up because shot after shot, punch after punch, Goku's sole motive during that point was to do as much damage to Gas as he physically could. So what he ends up doing instead is as he rains down a barrage of punches on Gas, he ends up winding his left arm back and, very similar to what we have seen, practically go down during the events of the Merge Zamasu story scene right here, which if you pay close enough attention to, you can see the attention to detail, you can see the similarities between Goku versus Zamasu and Goku versus Gas that ultimately led in Goku having to fire off an attack that ends up blowing Gas back enough to where Gas was seemingly on the ropes now that Goku had done this, and with this massive explosion then being echoed throughout the landscape, one could only imagine the sheer force of this explosion as Goku had landed this attack successfully on Gas, but through the smoke, with Goku expecting sort of like a different outcome out of nowhere behind him, Gas is then shown once again wielding another weapon, this time a giant mallet in his hand, as before Goku could even react fast enough in stopping this, Gas ends up whacking Goku across the head with this weapon that it ultimately sent Goku flying out into the distance to where Goku had to quickly maintain his balance by grabbing onto the ground, because rather than having Goku fly out any further into the woods, Goku was quickly able to stop himself in clutching onto his bloody head, with Gas looking on as Maki then comments, "This Saiyan's not all that tough after all. Maybe Gas didn't even need that wish to handle these chumps." But then Oil went on to notice something very unusual as Oil then comments, "Look, Vegeta's gone!" As interestingly enough, when going back to Vegeta, we see how Vegeta had gone back to the exact location and where he had fought Granola prior, and he seems to be looking for something. What exactly is he looking for? Well, Vegeta was looking for the armor piece that he had ripped off and thrown away during his fight against Granola, and inside of it, we then observe how he had finally gone on to find the last Senzu bean that he had brought on planet Sorel, as Vegeta then went on to comment, "Yes, it's safe. And the moment Vegeta clinches his fist in protecting the bean, over back with Goku and Gas, Gas once again had spawned another weapon, this time a weapon that kind of resembles nunchucks in a way, but not really, as he used this to strike Goku in the stomach, and whatever weapon this was had seemed to have done enough damage in causing Goku so much pain that the second Gas uses this in hitting Goku across the head with, Goku ends up hitting the ground back down below and reverting back to his base form, as Goku went on to ask, "What's the holdup, Vegeta? I hate to say it, but I'm not gonna last much longer." And as we then take a look at how Vegeta had finally landed somewhere, he did not in fact take the bean himself, but instead, he is then shown overlooking Granola's unconscious body in such a calm and serious way that the moment he went on to kneel on down, he's trying to wake up Granola by telling him, "Rise and shine, Granola." Eat this. What is this? Granola asks. "It will restore your energy. Now eat it." You had something like that all along? Eating it could have helped you beat me. And take the coward's way out? Never, Vegeta says. "Now eat the freaking bean and rejoin the fight." And as soon as Vegeta then aggressively went on to grab Granola by the shirt, he then continues, "Your revenge must be satisfied, no? So settle this grudge with your own strength." And with Granola shown seemingly speechless in not knowing how to answer Vegeta, it was only then during that moment where Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 78 then comes to a close. Now what this chapter I think does very well is go as far as to establish the fact that yes, there is a new enemy on the battlefield, and unlike Granola, who is simply trying to get revenge by wiping out two Saiyans, the opposition now is essentially enough out there looking to murder everybody, not for the sole sake of getting revenge, but to more or less now prove themselves to their brother, i.e. Elec, and going as far as to now reassure him that Gas will do what he needs to in order to fully be able to take down Goku, Vegeta, and Granola in murdering them off for good, to where as we only then make our way into Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 79 with Elec being shown having to drink wine aboard his ship, it was only then where as everything was going down with Gas in the distance, where Elec went on to ask, "I'm guessing Gas is now the mightiest in the universe?" "Elec, sir, shall we move the ship closer to the battlefield?" "Only once the fight is over," Elec says. "Have you ever seen an active battlefield? I don't want debris falling into my wine," with his henchman responding, "Very well, sir. Besides, I've got one more urgent errand to handle." To where in the meantime, when then going back to Maki, Oil, and Monaito, it was only from there where Maki went on to shout, "Spill the beans, geezer! Where'd Vegeta go?" "The heck if I know," Monaito responds. Playing dumb, are we? Maybe Oil can convince you to wise up." As with Oil shown getting closer, it was only as Monaito was shown standing his ground where Vegeta had forced Granola into eating the senzu bean by telling him, "Hurry up and eat it." What is this?" Granola asks. "One moment I was down for the count, but now this is incredible." "Go on," Vegeta says. "Don't waste the senzu bean." To where this was exactly what Granola had gone and doing, because right before Oil could do anything to harm Monaito, it was only from there where Granola was shown getting in Oil's face as Maki shouts, "Granola? How are you still standing?" Oil asks. "The old man's off limits," Granola says, as he from there took it upon himself in literally blowing Maki and Oil away. This in and of itself now had gone as far as to get Gas's attention, with Granola from there being shown having to turn his head and looking on up. That's when Gas went on to respond, "Your energy has been restored. Were you healed somehow?" "Don't forget your partner, Granola," Monaito went on to tell Granola from behind, in which as Monaito was beginning to hand Oatmeal on over to Granola, that was when Oatmeal went on to shout, "I swear, if you ever chuck me aside like that again." "Sorry about that, Oatmeal," with Oatmeal responding, "Does the universe's strongest have no need of my support?" "No, I'll always want you backing me up," he says, in which within this very moment, as Granola was from there shown powering up in such a way, this had now gone as far as to capture everybody's attention there, with Gas from there being shown throwing Goku off to the wayside, as Granola went on to then tell him, "Get down here, Gas, you're here to fight me." In which, to Gas's credit, this was exactly what he had gone and doing, as Gas went on to comment, "Just so," as he was from there now being shown having to meet Granola back down on the ground by from there being shown spawning two energy shields, as both Gas and Granola were then shown getting into fighting fighting position with Maki and Oil seemingly having to panic, it was upon both of them having to then be shown dashing towards one another where the fight had finally then begun, as it was during this time with Gas being shown attempting to strike Granola with his shield, to where Granola from there had made his way underneath Gas, and from there being shown blasting him non-stop, as the battle between the two now seems to be a direct measuring contest to see which one of the two is in fact the strongest. Neither one of these warriors were looking to back down against the other, as Gas was shown getting visibly frustrated at the fact that he wasn't able to defeat Granola off the gate. So what Gas ends up creating as a countermeasure are multiple different weapons in his best attempts of trying to get the better of Granola, but it would almost appear as though now with Granola fully healed courtesy of the Senzu Bean, Gas can't really do anything to stop Granola with, so as a response he ends up still trying anyway by spawning multiple different kinds of blades, by spawning a gigantic wrecking ball, and it would only appear as though nothing seems to be working, as Granola seems to be finding his way out by countering all of these attempted strikes. So Granola for the most part seems to be holding his own relatively well. The fight seems to be a back and forth contest, and if anything else, it almost appears as though Granola does seem to have the upper hand against Gas during the course of this battle, as even despite being at a significant disadvantage with Gas now shown getting desperate, Gas tried to do everything under the sun in order to get the better of Granola by either having to attack him using multiple different kinds of blades. Gas tried crushing him. Nothing at this point was seemingly working now in Gas's favor, as even now with the others having to acknowledge this, with Monaito trying to do everything he can to heal the Saiyans, that's when Vegeta went on to respond, "The gap between them is evident. This is Granola's last chance." But why is Gas just sticking to that one move using those strange weapons? Hard to say, Vegeta responds. Perhaps he gained that ability from the wish to become the strongest. Nope, Monaito chimes in. Gas has always used those weapons that he creates out of nothing. Oh? As once again with Gas now being shown having to spawn more weapons to his disposal, Gas was trying to do everything within the best of his own ability to shred Granola into pieces, but there wasn't a single thing that had seemed to favor Gas in this battle, so as long as Granola was now in control, because the very moment Granola had from there gone as far as to knock Gas back, that was when Granola went on to ask, "Why? Why rely solely on that arsenal of yours?" With Maki responding, "I get it. Gas wants to beat Granola with his own strength." To where even with Gas attempting to do so, that was when Granola went on to continue, "Didn't that wish give you new powers to use? Alright, ain't that Gas can't wield his newly found power right away. He just doesn't wanna."
Alright guys,
Where
we're gonna end the stream now.
with Granola shown having to disarm
If you
Gas
stayed
by
this
having
long,
to swipe
I'd like to
away
say
his
thank you.
sword, it was only from
Give
there
the video
where
a
Granola
thumbs
went on
up,
to
subscribe, and
shout,
I'll see you
"If
guys
this is
tomorrow.
all you've
Have a
got,
good night.
then you're
Peace.
done
Give the video
for."
a
As it
thumbs
was
up,
only
subscribe, and I'll